Hi friends, welcome to Life with Loverly. I'm your host, Brittany Shogren. I'm excited to share my heart with you beyond the 15 seconds we get on Instagram. Grab an iced coffee and let's do life together. Hi friends, Nichelle and I are back in the studio together, and today we're going to talk about music, concerts, a few embarrassing stories around music, and some other really fun memories. I feel like today's episode is going to be a good one.
Yes, it is. It's one of my all-time favorite things to talk about. I feel like music is such an important part of life, because when we start thinking about stories and all this topic, at first we were like, wow, that seems very large and scary. What do we talk about? So many memories are tied to music as you grow up and you get older. It's fun. I think this is gonna be fun.
And music plays such a part in like someone's mood, you know?
Absolutely.
Like if you're in a sad mood, it's like there's a playlist for that. If you're ready to like pump up the jams, there's a playlist for that. If you're just, you know, I think of the variety of stuff that we listen to in the office, and you can tell by each person's mood that day, or whoever has been like, hey Google, turn on whatever. That is like the vibe of the day.
It was storming, torrential downpour this morning. We walked into Michael Bublé.
Definitely, like we all just wanted to like cozy up by a fire with
Yes.
blankets, and the music was definitely setting the mood for that.
It did.
So let's start off by saying some of our favorite bands.
This is going to be very hard for me, but
same. I can't think of, like, if I had to pinpoint only three.
Yeah.
Because there's so many in it. Like I said, it kind of goes back to what my mood is. I don't know. What's your first thoughts?
I think the point in your life too, like it changes. So I could have some really old school bands that I love music, guys. A lot of things, like she's sitting here talking and I can tell you there's certain words that she's saying that are reminding me of songs every time that she's like saying something different. So it just really depends, I think, the stage I am in life. Right now, if I had to think about my top three, it would probably be my go-tos.
Okay.
So if I'm in the car and I'm on a long ride, my tried and true reliables, Lady Gaga. If you don't know me, huge fan. You know,
right.
Would love to go to the concert. If you're going, let me know. And Panic at the Disco. I think it's just because like he came out whenever I was in my early 20s, the first go round, and then he came back, and so my daughter was really into him. So we kind of got into it together. Been to his concerts, and then Kings of Leon.
I went through a big Kings of Leon phase. Actually, my best friend Shay and we drove to like see her boyfriend at the time in South Carolina. It was like a 5-hour drive, and we listened to Kings of Leon like on repeat the whole time.
It's too easy. Like you can listen to it consistently. It's just easy listening.
But every time I hear Kings of Leon, I immediately think back to that road trip and like that whole like weekend. And it's so funny how your mind can associate a memory with a song. It's kind of like the same with like smell. You know?
Absolutely. My memory of Kings of Leon is I had found out I was pregnant with Bryn that week. And I remember the whole time being like, am I okay being here? Like pregnant at a concert? But it was just such a fun show.
Yeah.
They're an amazing show if you haven't seen them.
That's what I've heard.
His voice is the exact same as it is recorded. So it's a great show. What about yours?
See, I feel like I have such a hard time picking my favorite bands because there are so many good bands and music out there that I'm like, I don't want to forget about anybody. But I wrote down Carrie Underwood.
Yes.
I think I could sing probably every single Carrie Underwood song. Like one of her CDs, the one that's like, I think it's her in a field and she's wearing like black is what the album cover is.
Yes.
I think that was like 2012 maybe. I remember that entire, like I could sing word for word every single song. I would be driving like a long distance and I would go through and sing the whole CD, you know. So that, I feel like it's one I can always go back to. And I even love like her newer stuff now and gearing up to go to her concert in February.
So excited. Is it here in Atlanta?
She's coming to Atlanta.
Oh, that's exciting.
So pumped for that. I can always get down with Justin Bieber. Like,
yes.
I am so bummed I didn't see him when he came to Atlanta. And I have told Chris so many times, I'm like, gosh, we need to go see Bieber.
Yeah.
And Chris is like, do we though? And I'm like, my go-to, like, if I need to, like, get pumped up is Justin Bieber Radio.
It's so good.
Yes. We play that in the office a lot. I play that, like, on road trips. Sometimes, like, Chris will be like, what do you want to listen to? I'm like, Justin Bieber Radio, obviously.
Radio.
So he would be one. And then I also love Taylor Swift.
She's a good one, too.
Yeah. I saw her in concert, and she puts on a phenomenal show. Yeah. It was like such an experience. So I think about like that when I'm listening to her music.
Yes, that's really important to me. I think just Lady Gaga, same way. It's a story.
Yes.
The album is always a story. And I think that for most musicians, that's the case. They create these albums on stories, but they tell that story so well in real life during concerts as well. So I just love I'm getting chill bumps just thinking about it. I love going to concerts, but it just makes it come to life. You feel it and you hear it so much better when they're able to tell the story and have it come to life.
Yeah. I grew up just with music always part of our life. My dad is a huge music fan. I mean, he's probably been to the most amount of concerts of anybody I know ever, and started going to them when he was really young. Some of the stories that he has told us over the past of just like his concert going days. He saw Tom Petty in 3 different cities on 3 different nights, and they snuck into every single show. And
oh my gosh, that's
he used
awesome.
to like watch concerts from like the rafters above the band, and then like sneak out before it was over.
Was this
like,
in Seattle? Like,
this is like when he lived in like the Portland, like Washington area. And yeah, so his stories from like when we were old enough to start like hearing those type of stories, we were always like, oh my gosh. But even like throughout our house, we always had like the stereo system going, and like music was always playing, lots of like 80s we grew up on. And so those are some songs I feel like I have like such specific memories, or like road trips. So when I hear some of these like older songs on the radio, it takes me back to that. And I'm reminded that like my love for music and just like it kind of like being such a mood booster started when I was so young, because it was truly a part of our daily life.
It is. I was just telling Lane before the show, I was like, this is just bringing me back to those days. We were in my mom's Cougar. We had the windows rolled down, and she was blasting Janet Jackson, Paula Abdul. I mean, all of those great 80s, songs.
Yes.
Those were the times.
It's funny because there's a radio station here in Athens, Magic 102.1. I actually don't know if it's still called Magic, but it was at one point. And I remember there was like a 6-month period that I knew every single song on the radio.
I love that.
Like the next song would come on, I'd be like, yep, know this one, belt it out. Next song come on, yep, got it. And I would be like, are they gonna play anything that I don't know?
Right.
So I just remember being like, I seriously know every single song.
Yeah.
Like,
hit me up.
Yeah. I feel like kids these days aren't going to have that opportunity, because we weren't ever distracted by like phones or a tablet in the car. It was like you were stuck looking out the window. Like the only thing you could do in the car was memorize the songs that were on the radio.
Yes. That is so true. One of the things that we always do on road trips is we literally get our phone out, and whoever's is hooked up to the auxiliary, we're like, who wants a turn? And we let the girls take turns playing music. One of the things that Robert, my husband, is also very, very much into music. Mm-hmm. He listens to literally anything from A to Z. And the girls, I think that's one thing that we were so proud of, was like being able to be like, oh, they know who Prince is. They can sing all of his songs. Yeah. They know anywhere down to the local bands that are in that, are very popular. It's been such an experience, I think, just seeing and hearing like how much they appreciate music too.
Right.
we do not let them get wrapped up in the car where it's quiet time, they're on their phone. Like, come on, let's be part of this.
It's like, we're going dance party.
Exactly.
It's funny because the first time Nichelle and I went on a road trip together where we like drove, we like took turns driving, and both of us, like when she was driving, it was her phone was hooked up and like we were listening to her playlist, and then when I was driving, it was my playlist, and they were like so opposite.
Yes.
But like we both knew the songs. There were a few that I was like, I don't know what we're listening to.
Yeah, it was just a random part of my, my childhood.
And then I would play, and it would be like, but it fit our personalities, but it's just so funny, like the variety.
Oh, yeah.
And like what really speaks to each of us.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that we were talking about was like how your music taste has changed throughout your life. I mean, in elementary school, we listened to 80s, which was like, it was pop. So, like I said, Paula Abdul, Janet Jackson, all of that. And then I remember being like really into country right before middle school. I mean, my first CDs, because CDs came out when I was in 5th grade. My first CD was like Alan Jackson. And then the next one was like John Bon Jovi, and then Clay Walker. It was so random.
Clay Walker.
I know. Clay Walker. Man, I sang that in the talent show. We've got to talk about that.
We're gonna get to some embarrassing stories here in just a little bit, and y'all.
But then 6th grade happened, and you're trying to impress like the older kids, and they were listening to rap at the time. So then those random like Coolio, and I can't even remember all of them now, but it was like this short-lived like rap moment. I think that's what threw you off in the car, because I was listening to all this random like mid-90s, late 90s stuff, and you were like, how do you know this?
Yes. Yeah. It's just, it takes me back, like different. I think if you were to look at like my Spotify year in review, it is all over the place. Yes. Because sometimes I feel like I'm in like such a country mood. Other times I want more pop, like Justin Bieber, and like some bands that kind of like, maybe I've never heard of the actual band, but I could like sing one of their songs because it's kind of like upbeat and maybe like goes in rotation on my playlists. But if you were to be like, oh, have you ever heard of like this band? I would be like, never heard of them.
Yeah.
But I just feel like even throughout like the year, my taste is a little bit different. Mm-hmm. Like we wrote a few questions down. Like usually when we do the podcast, we kind of like follow a guide of like what we want to talk about. And one of the questions we wrote down was, if we had to listen to the same song for the rest of your life, what would it be? And
I can't answer that.
I don't know. Okay, so I kind of narrowed this down in my head. I have like a hot country playlist on my Spotify, and whenever I don't know what to listen to, or if I'm like, I don't have a preference, I just want to listen to music, I always play that.
Yeah. And
there's a lot of variety, but all within the country genre, because I feel like that's, country to me can like pump me up, but it can also just like be at my mood, but I can like get going and dancing and like belting. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I want to change the question a little bit to be like, what playlist would you listen to for the rest of your life? And it would be like this one playlist that's on my Spotify that I like love. That's my go-to.
Yeah, I can't answer that. I love music so much. I feel like I would do something or somebody a disservice by narrowing it down. Like I said, I do have my go-tos, and this has been, I mean, Lady Gaga's been a go-to for years now, but it just changes. Like if the girls are in the car, if I'm on a road trip, or if I'm, feeling a certain type of way. I love 80s. I love late 70s music. Like that's one thing I put on a lot of the time. So I don't know that I can answer that. I feel like that would be like a torture to me. Yeah. To have to nail it down to only one for the rest of your life.
Gosh, I know, it's tough. What was your first concert that you went to?
Backstreet Boys.
Really?
It was. I felt like it was later compared to my friends. Uh-huh. I was in high school. I think I was in 10th grade. It was like 9th or 10th grade. But I felt like all of my friends had gone to concerts before, like Reba McEntire and like all of these other like really popular concerts. And then my mother took my friend and I as a surprise to Backstreet Boys. Oh yeah.
I've seen Backstreet Boys in concert. Actually, like within the last like 15 years, they came to Atlanta and did like Chastain. It was like their 40th. they were all turning 40.
Yes.
And that was a really fun concert. Backstreet Boys was actually my first CD that I ever got.
Was it?
My uncle came into town and he like bought me a Walkman, and my first CD was Backstreet Boys. And my parents, before I could listen to it, they had to like listen to the whole album first to make sure I was okay.
Yeah.
And then I was allowed to. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. My first concert, I think I was in like 5th or 6th grade, was this band called Third Day.
Okay.
They were like a contemporary Christian like rock band, and my dad like loved the like beat of their music, and for whatever reason that's what our first concert was. And then from there I feel like we've seen like a ton of like Christian artists, like country artists, pop art, like it just is like gone. And we've seen like some 80s artists who've like come back and like done these like second, or like, you know, like I feel like the second part of their lives on tour.
Like Peter
like
Frampton and Journey and all of them. I'm like, I can totally see your dad wanting to go to something like that.
So Ryan Adams
yes.
and Foreigner, we saw them in concert.
Yes.
That was so much fun. That was like a family concert that we did that I feel like I'll like never forget. Cause like my brother and I were like, we thought we were like so cool in high school, but we actually like liked each other at this point of like being in high school. Yeah. And it was such a fun time.
Concerts are, I haven't been to as many obviously in the last, I would say even 10 years. When I was growing up though, in my late teenage years, my friend and I would scope out what concerts were coming in, and it was like a lot of the smaller venues. So in Atlanta there's so many venues in Atlanta.
Yes.
There's the huge ones, but then there's also like 40 Watts, George Theater. There was the Tabernacle was like one of my favorites. Chastain. There's so many, and so we would like go on there. This is when concerts were like $20. Every weekend we would go and be like, okay, let's go to Atlanta, see who's here. Let's go see who we can meet. I mean, very innocently. It was just one of those things. We got backstage at a very, very popular, I mean, it was Incubus. I'm not gonna, it was Incubus. We got backstage. My friend ended up meeting the bass player and getting on the tour bus and hanging out with him. And I was like, I'm scared. I'm gonna go home. This is real now.
That I know.
No, but I was also 17 at the time, 18. And then we would meet a lot of like these smaller, like it was, I think punk rock was like really in then, and like hard rock. 99X. What was it? Power 99. They've gone through so many name changes, but it was like the alternative station in Atlanta. They would throw a concert. It was a 3-day series that was called Big Day Out. They only did it for, I want to say like 5-6 years. I think it was just too much of a production to keep putting on, but it was so fun because they had like the main stage where all of the really popular bands would play, usually towards the end of the night on the 3rd day. But then they had Living Loud, which was like up and coming artists that were like, you hear them on the radio, but not as frequently. And then they had a locals only. So people who were local, really trying to make it big, they had a spotlight for them as well. And my husband and I actually went to that when we were dating 2 years in a row. I got to see Linkin Park before they ever got on the radio.
Wow.
And to think now, like, okay, they've been around for a very long time. Right. That's how old I am. But it's just so funny to think about all these experiences. Marvelous 3 was really big at that point, and Butch Walker, he's from Cartersville, Georgia. I ended up literally falling in love with their music, and he branched off on his own, and he's still doing music to this day. It was so cool because when I went to his shows over the years, he knew my name.
That's so cool.
I'm like, Robert used to always joke that our first child was Butch Walker's because I just was so obsessed with him. He was like, is she gonna come out with black hair and tattoos? You're like, no, I promise. I loved, he was a country boy that like turned rock and roll. And it was just I loved it. Bush, Green Day, Stone Temple Pilots, like all that early 90s, late 90s rock was where that was at. It was so much fun.
Yeah. One of the first concerts, actually Chris and I like first date so we worked together and we kind of like dated secretly for a little while because we were in the same, like, our jobs, like, kind of worked together, and it was frowned upon to date somebody in the same, like, line of work. And so he was, like, working his way up for a promotion. So once he got this promotion and we had, like, our first date, that was, like, a couple's date with other people that we were like, okay, like, we are dating, you know, kind of thing, was a Mumford & Sons concert in Centennial Park in Atlanta.
So good.
It's the best concert I've ever been to this day. It was so cool because it was so intimate in the park though. And I remember they had it all decorated with these like string lights that like came off of the like the TVs and like where the stage was, and they like went all the way back, and everybody was just like in like from the distance of the stage to like where the string lights ended. So it just felt so like, I don't know, like romantic and intimate. And I'll never forget, this is the only time I've been to a concert where like the Jumbotron showing the like the video of the band, because you know obviously they're up there and you can't like really see them. They had these 3 huge long screens that were across the top of the stage, and every other concert I'd been to had been like one big screen at the side, but it was like 3 across the top, like long ways. And I just remember the whole time being like, this is amazing because we can see them no matter where you're sitting. You felt like they were literally singing into your soul. And it was such a good concert. It was one of the last ones that they did before they like took a break and then like went overseas. And I just remember like, I was like, this is so magical. This is like our first concert, like our first like time that we're like allowed to be like out in public together. I'll never forget it. I loved it so much.
Did you guys have a song? Like that's actually something I just thought about.
I feel like anything off that Mumford & Sons album would probably, we would be like, oh, like that's give each other like a, oh, remember that?
Yeah.
I don't think we had like a specific song. I mean, I think now when I think of like what our song was, I'm like, would that count as like our wedding song? Even though our wedding song was Bryan Adams, but I don't know. Did you guys have a song?
We did. It was kind of silly, but it's still, every time we hear it, we're like, oh. When we were dating, every time, I'm not exaggerating, every time we got in the car, Goo Goo Dolls Slide came on.
Classic. I do love a good Goo Goo Dolls moment.
I actually forgot. That's next month.
Yeah.
The concert's next month. So
Goo Goo Dolls is so good. They used to be like, if you would have asked me my favorite band and like songs that I would want to hear only for the rest of my life, it would have been Goo Goo Dolls. For a really long time, that's who I'm like, nope, those are my people. Even in our wedding video, we have like Goo Goo Dolls as like some of the music in our wedding video.
Well, and it's one of those, because they're not still recording right now, it's so hard to remember until you actually hear it and you're like, wait, no, I could listen to anything by them as well.
Yes.
So good.
I guess speaking of Goo Goo Dolls, we could get into my most embarrassing moment of life.
I mean, I think the people need to hear this. This is good.
You guys, I just know that I am like turning red so hard telling this story on the other side of wherever you're listening to this podcast. So when I was in high school, I was in DECA. That was like a club that I was like really into. I was like one of like on the board or whatever. I was super into DECA, but I needed to join like a second club. In order to go to like the DECA competition or something, you had to like have another club on your resume. And so I was trying to figure out like what other club I wanted to join, and I was taking Spanish class. Not even like, I mean, I can barely even speak Spanish to this day, but I was in Spanish class, and a friend of mine was like, why don't you just join the Spanish club? Like, they don't meet that often. It's super easy. It would be like a great like second club to be in. And so I was like, okay. So we go to our first Spanish club meeting, and they are trying to nominate somebody for this like local pageant that every club had a representative for. And it was like a a talent show pageant that was, oh gosh, what was it called? It was like, it wasn't like Miss Oconee County, but it was Miss something. I'll think of it in a second. And basically what everybody had to do was you had to do a talent. You had to, if you made it to the next round, then you had to there was they would ask you a question, kind of like in like the Miss America pageant.
For sure, yeah.
It was broken into sections like that. And like every time you advanced, there was like another requirement, but like everybody had to do the talent. That was like for sure everyone did. And so I get nominated to be our representative for the Spanish club. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, I can kind of sing. I cannot sing. Like, I just need to preface that. Don't ever let me join a talent show and sing in my life again. And I think I had this confidence because I have been on vacation when I was younger, go to like an all-inclusive resort, and they would have like karaoke, and I was just fearless, and I would get up there and sing Celine Dion. Like, it was nothing. Yeah. And so for some reason, my 17-year-old self was like, I can sing. Like, that's my talent. So I kind of like am just like, maybe if I forget about this, like it won't actually happen. So I didn't practice. I didn't really, put a lot of effort into it until the week of. I was like, okay, this is actually happening. I need to like come up with a song and like a plan and what I'm going to do. But, there wasn't any music that I could sing to. It had to be like a cappella. Oh. And however, I had this guy who was in one of my classes that I like, looking back, I didn't even really know him, but he played the guitar. And so literally 2 days before the pageant, I was like, can you play the guitar and I'll sing this Goo Goo Doll song? Why did I pick Goo Goo Dolls? I don't know.
They're great, but
I don't know. And so the song that I sang was called Acoustic number 3. And so we practice, and I think he's just thinking I'm crazy during this whole time because he's like, and I'm kind of hoping that he's gonna like be on stage with me, so it's gonna be like us together as like talent.
You legitimately thought he was gonna be on stage.
I literally did. Like the day of, I was walking out and I'm like, come on. He's like, no, I'm staying behind the curtain and I'm gonna play the guitar back here, and then you're just gonna sing out there. I was more concerned with what I was gonna wear than what I was actually gonna like do the talent. My mom invited like my aunt to come, and the day before I was just like, Mom, I really don't want to do this. Like, I don't think this is a good idea. I get up there and I sing this song. The entire time I'm singing with my eyes closed. I just get up there, he starts playing, I start singing, and I'm pretty sure that I blacked out.
If your eyes weren't closed, you literally probably blacked out.
I honestly have no idea how long I was up there for. I don't know what I sounded like. At the end, I walked off the stage. It was just silent. There was no like applause. There was just nothing. And I got off, and obviously I didn't make it to the next round. And I thought it was weird how after the talent show, like, nobody brought it up ever again. Like, nobody, like, of course my parents were like, oh, that was good, and I was like, I literally blacked out. I don't know what I said. Did I even sing? I don't know. Mm-hmm. And we just kind of like went about the day. But I remember getting to school the next week, like thinking like some of my favorite teachers would have been like, yeah, I saw you at the talent show, because I knew they were there. They knew I was going to be singing. And it was like literally everybody, I left the stage and the audience must have made a pact. Like, that was so horrible. We are never speaking of that again. Like, I thought it was so weird. Like, nobody was like, good job, or like, oh man, like, crazy how tough that must have been. It just like never got brought up again. And so now I look back And I'm sure somebody who's listening to this podcast was in the audience that night. I would love, for you to tell me what it actually was like. Because I just try to block that entire experience out of my memory. And I was so mad at the Spanish club that I had to do this.
Right. It's not even worth it.
Oh my gosh. That's truly my most embarrassing moment. I don't know why somebody would let me do that. We need to, next time my mom comes on the podcast, we need to ask her, about this.
Yeah, don't hold back, Sabina.
I know. Let us know. Mom.
I can't think of an embarrassing moment, but I do recall I was in chorus in elementary school. Mm-hmm. It was, the chorus teacher was my mom's really good friend. My mom was in the school system, and I was an alto. So, it was always the lower pitch. I mean, hello, listen to me. But I was the alto, and we went to conferences and sang Next Level. And I thought, hey, I'm in chorus. I'm obviously a good singer, you know? Yeah. So right. I don't have a
false
clue.
Sense of confidence.
Yes.
Because I was not afraid to belt every single song on the radio in the car.
Yes. I have no memories of what happened afterwards. So I don't know if this is because I maybe was just trying to repress the memories, or it's just been that long ago. But I did sing in the talent show. Is it Live Until I Die? Live Until the Day I Die? Clay Walker? It's one of those. It's been a long time. And then I was Belle in Beauty and the Beast in 5th grade. And so I got to dress up, we got to act like her, and I got to sing too. And I'm pretty sure my mom talked her into letting me have that role. I don't know how I got it. Because I cannot sing either. I literally can't. I don't care anymore either. It's just fun. But I was like, how much did you pay her? Right. Literally looking back, I'm is there video evidence of this? No.
Oh my gosh. Thank God there's not. People didn't have video cell phones during this pageant or talent show that I did.
Right.
Because that would just be the end. It's been nice knowing you guys. Goodbye.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. It's so crazy how we have such a love for music, and around friends and family, you don't care what you sound like. Absolutely. But the moment that it's there's pressure, mm-hmm. and maybe I actually don't have as much confidence as I thought I did.
Right.
It's so funny.
We were talking about memories being attached to music, and one of the things that I always said whenever I was working in retail, we would play music. I mean, most places I worked, but Pottery Barn's one of my better, I think, memories of this is that I actually kept up with numbers based on what we played in the store. I really truly believe that what you played really spoke to the client. And we had a client, just like you have a typical, follower, your following is between this age and this age, and this is typically who they are.
Right.
That's same thing with our clients. We would keep up with that information. And I would play 80s classic rock on the weekends. And my traffic and volume was so much higher the days that I actually played that. We actually were told we weren't allowed to play anything but a specific radio station. I told my boss, I was like, if you want me to continue to be number one, you're going to let me play this. She was like, whatever, as long as corporate doesn't walk in. I swear that if you play and you know who your client is and you play for that, I mean, aren't you in a better mood when you hear something you enjoy or you have a great memory?
Right.
And
then you're like, oh yeah, I do need a new
new blanket or a new sofa.
It's so true. Because I don't think Target plays.
It's half and half. Some of them have systems, some of them don't.
So for the longest time, the Target here, I don't know if they still don't, but I remember being in Texas when I was visiting Taryn, and I walked into Target and I was like, oh my gosh, these jams are so good.
Yes.
And I was dancing down the halls.
And you bought stuff, didn't you?
Yes, yeah. The aisles. And I'm like, I need this shirt. Mm-hmm. In such a good mood. Mm-hmm. I love that. I worked at this boutique after college, and I remember playlist was the same, like 30 songs, and the owner wouldn't let us change the songs. Like, it had to be this playlist.
Oh.
And so now I hear some of those songs and I'm like, ugh. Like,
yes.
They can also be associated with not so good memories.
Absolutely. I know. There's a couple of songs that have come back, and they're popular now. When I worked at Aerie, they used to always play up-and-coming artists, not necessarily anything that was trendy. And I hear it now, and I'm like, oh, I remember those days when the swimsuits came out. It was like summer fun.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh.
This has been fun. Do you have a soundtrack that you go to? So, like, is there a movie that you're just, that music is like amazing?
I'm sure there is. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Before this, we were talking about Coyote Ugly, and like, I think all of that soundtrack was really good.
And I'm over here going, I don't even know what's on that except Leanne Rhymes, but
you guys,
I'm sure
she doesn't even know if she's ever seen Coyote Ugly. Like,
Guilty.
We're gonna have a movie day at the office soon, and we're gonna all pick a movie that no one else has seen, and we're gonna have to watch it.
Well, that's how I feel about Pretty Woman. I'm like, how have y'all not seen Pretty Woman? Come on.
Yeah, this is classic.
I know. A Star is Born is one of...
Yes.
Yeah.
Chris, also huge A Star is Born fan.
They shot the music in front of a live audience.
Yes.
It wasn't done in a studio, which I think is so amazing. Again, the nerd in me. Okay.
Right.
But the other thing is Bradley Cooper sang it himself.
Right. He did. That was like
with Lady
so
Gaga.
cool. Like all of his own vocals.
Yes.
I remember when that was like when they were filming all that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that was awesome.
Chris was in here yesterday and he finally saw Thor. And that's one other thing. The nerd, again, Marvel movies. Mm-hmm. Thor has a BA soundtrack. All of Thor's like individual movies, but this latest one made the movie. I swear. The music made the movie.
It's funny. I feel like sometimes when I'm watching movies, I don't necessarily like hear the songs. Okay. But then like later I can associate the music with the movie, if that makes sense. Like it's I don't know if I'm not like focusing on both of them when I'm watching it, but later I'm like, oh yeah, that's from that movie.
I do. Only because I feel like it helps you feel the mood. Mm-hmm. So like if there's certain words or even like, I don't know, certain tones that are played during that moment. Yeah. I don't know. I'm a weirdo.
You're like, music's kind of my thing.
There's literally those moments where I'm like, this could have been a better song. Or, wow, that made that moment so much more special.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Music, it just gets to you.
We didn't think that we would be able to do a whole episode on music, and here we are.
I know, and I feel like we could keep going.
1000%, guys. I have so many notes that I was like, ooh, and this, ooh, and this.
I know. Well, this episode has been so much fun. Any other thoughts on music before we wrap it up?
A million, but maybe we'll have a part 2.
Yeah, I feel like we could get into that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today on Life with Loverly. Please share this episode with someone who loves music and embarrassing stories. We will see you next week, same place, same time. Thanks for listening to today's episode. I can't wait to continue these conversations with you over on Instagram. Make sure to follow along at Life with Loverly. Until next time.